All right, so our next speaker, Larry Feinberg with NIP Bio, and we'll keep it rolling.
Onwards. Hello, everybody. I'm Larry Feinberg, CEO and founder of NIP Bio. Really delighted to be back here again. Thank you, F3 organizers, for putting together such an important event. I will summarize a very similar slide. I think maybe a little friendly, perhaps. But anyway, if I do my own math, it's good to see that mine and Uma's math kind of add up together. So that was great. Yeah, there's a deficit coming. I think we all get that. Whether you calculate that terrestrial proteins are going to somehow be more productive on a per acreage basis, we're going to get better at harvesting fish meal on a rendering basis. We're going to get better scraps, and we're going to continue to drive the overall growth rate. Historically it's been 7 to 11%. Let's say it's just 5%, and so you can see it's at least a 15 million ton deficit on protein alone. So we got a lot of work to do. We heard some really good examples earlier. All right, and so maybe we're going to have several different strategies that are going to help simultaneously, but truthfully, we're going to need them all. So already covered, single-cell proteins are the proteins derived from microorganisms like bacteria or yeast. It's a very encouraging category that's emerging. When you think about the amount of acreage that's required for a fermentation facility, essentially a brewery, it's about 1,000 times less than that of a soybean farm. So how do we do more with less going forward? This is definitely one of the solutions, if not the solution. And so when you add in biotech, in addition to the fact that it has some of these really strong, sustainable and environmental footprint characteristics, you're onto something pretty powerful. So what we're developing here is a protein plus platform. We're pretty sure we're going to have on the low end of the cost structure, both on CapEx as well as OpEx. We've been doing a lot of work here, about 25 or so feed trials under our belt. So the way we've been doing this is a little different than a lot of the biotech companies that came before us. Because of the installed infrastructure that is sort of the shoulders that we stand on, we're able to effectively outsource parts of the development process. So whether that's fish biology or large-scale bioprocessing and fermentation, manufacturing, but also we have some good friends with the feed manufacturing and recipe and design, as well as our own biotech team outside of Boston. So coming down the pike here, I'll talk a little bit more about the commercial manufacturing and marketing distribution partnerships in the works. But at a very high level, what we're talking about is a microbe in nature that grows on the surface of leaves. It's a leaf symbiont. And this is a very interesting organism. It's not just a source of protein, but also has powerful antioxidants and other compounds of interest. So like yeast, like alcohol, we can brew this in a fermenter, pretty standard off-the-shelf aerobic fermentation equipment. So that's a real nice advantage. And then, of course, there's nice product photos of others. Makes a nice flour. But really what we have here is a triumvirate of properties. So the protein is essentially the delivery device for some of these additional molecules of interest, these functionalities that we're able to deliver. And there's some really interesting immunonutritional properties that we've identified and will continue to enhance. So just sort of breaking down each one of these sectors, when you look at juvenile trout, for example, we've seen really strong growth compared to a high fish meal control. This is actually available in a white paper on our website, so definitely feel free to sign up and download it. Some of you have already. But so we're seeing really nice results there as a source of protein, but also some of these additional molecules, for example, astaxanthin and the whole rainbow of carotenoids, quite frankly. So in addition, we can use synthetic biology to develop and engineer new molecules of interest. Our proof of concept project a little while ago was taurine, is one that we've talked about in the past, with others in the works. So when we do an EMS challenge, we see some really positive results. These trials work pretty effectively. The controls are in the gray, no EMS, and everybody lives pretty happy, and you add it in there, and they don't do so well pretty darn quickly. Okay, and then sort of our baseline off-the-shelf protein, what we see is a bump. That's something we noticed right from the beginning. And now what we're doing is enhancing some of these properties to be able to tease them out, and so that we can see a more stable supply of these immunonutrient compounds to help fend off attacks from Vibrio and other predators, if you will. So actually, it was just as easy for us to deliver 3 products as it was 1. And so we have this line, these 3 different strains that we're coming out with. Essentially, one is really good for stress and larval stages in particular. We have effectively a fish meal replacement or complement, and that's a high protein product. And then, of course, some of the biocolor like astaxanthin. So how we have scaled over time, we've gotten a little better, a little faster. All 3 products are now at least pilot scale, if not semi-commercial, pre-commercial scale. And the idea is to get into this next stage where we're producing tens of tons of biomass per batch. So there is a real nice opportunity here in the U.S. The corn ethanol industry is obviously well known for making fuel from corn. It's a very efficient and now relatively mature process, but there's a problem with that sector in that cars are becoming more efficient. Cars are electrifying, and so the overall demand for these fuels are going down, and so the price and the pressure on these facilities is greater than ever. So we can actually take a waste stream out of this process, convert that at very high yield, and add some additional profitability to those plants. But additionally, we can co-locate and take advantage of some of the site synergies. Specifically, there is power and utilities and transportation logistics. And of course, they already understand fermentation and animal feeds, for example. So it's a natural host, and we'll be able to expand and grow our manufacturing capabilities. We're working with the engineering and design firm, ICM. This is the firm that designed, engineered, and built 110 of the country's 200 corn ethanol plants. So certainly they know how to simplify an industrial bioprocess well enough for a Kansas farmer to run and operate. Definitely a big deal for us, maybe a big deal for the sector, I don't know. But I think just this past week we announced we did receive a nod of approval from US FDA. Take a big sigh of relief. Anyway, it was a really big process, and you know, it was something actually started in 2014 in earnest when we sat down and we introduced ourselves and said, this is our idea. And so it's been very iterative and very collaborative in many ways, mixing a government shutdown or almost 2 in there, and anyway, here we are today. So very happy and pleased and satisfied to announce that. You know, I think as a battle cry for us all is we need more of this, and we need to sort of figure out how as a sector we can accelerate this, because we can't wait 5 years for every single ingredient to get approved. I mean, we got, you know, several more coming down the pike. So I wonder if one outcome for today's meeting, the Feed Innovation Network that Dr. Barros and so many others are involved in, maybe this is a way for us to collectively pool some of our resources and collectively help accelerate the overall process, because it's brutal and it's really slow. And maybe some of my learnings can be leveraged, and maybe I can learn from you guys, and we can kind of do this better and more systematically going forward. So one comment I want to make, there's this phenomenon, Jill mentioned it real quickly, this RAS movement in some ways is old and has been here forever, but in other ways it really seems like it almost came out of nowhere. Of course, we got the big project in Miami. That's the photo there behind me. I've had the good fortune to tour in December. But anyway, these facilities are coming online in the U.S. in particular. We have 2 in Maine. Actually, there's a 3rd that's permitted. One of the main firms just announced in California. Of course, the one in Miami, and then there's several smaller ones out throughout the U.S. So potentially this is a large and emerging market. And the reason why I bring this up is, well, poop matters. As we heard from some of the insect companies, we have very firm and strong poop. So I know that some of the feed companies are looking at binding agents. Well, one thing is maybe just feed them good food to start with so that they're healthier and they have more solid feces. And I think that's a really important aspect here. So we're pretty proud of our poop, I guess. But anyway, yeah, so it's really encouraging. I want to thank you guys for your time. I think I'm way ahead of schedule, so that means there's more room for questions.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Yeah, we got time for a couple questions. Yeah, Glenn?
Good job, Larry. You've made a lot of progress in the past 2 years since I've seen you. You said you're working with the ethanol industry. Are you finding them as a receptive audience, or you feel like you're pushing a rock up a hill?
Yeah, really good question. It is a conservative, agricultural, show me type of mindset. But the reality is they're suffering some hard times, and it would be a welcome solution. Definitely.
Good. Yeah, 'cause you're talking right in my backyard.
Yeah, yep, yep.
Yeah. Suresh, you got to.
Thank you, Larry. You're shooting for 10 tons per batch, and you're showing a 200,000 liter tank. You need to be at 45 grams per liter.
That's not what we're shooting for. That's already demonstrated. So yeah, that's not really that hard actually for us.
In an aerobic fermenter.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, we think we can do even better than that. But you're still good at numbers.
Very quick. Okay, I just want to also again congratulate Larry. Getting that generally regarded as safe, the grass is a really big deal. And we were talking about it yesterday. I think this is something that the Fin and everybody getting together would really help the whole industry, not only for aquaculture feeds, but animal feeds across the board. So I really encourage this idea that we use the Fin and we use whatever networking we can to get a lot more of these products as grass. So yeah, we got another right behind you there.
Larry, what would you say your secret was to that regulatory process, and how did you really move it along so that you felt that you had a partnership or to achieve the success?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. It really was engagement early and often. We had an experimental protocol. We'd run it by them. Hey, what do you guys think? And they would tweak it and give us feedback. They really wanted to be part of the process. The last thing they wanted is for us to hand a 1,000-page dossier and hope it was okay. So it was very much a work in progress and very collaborative and iterative.